So first things first, what is the Anatomage ebook? So some of you might already have heard of the Anatomage ebook. For those of you who don't know, the Anatomage ebook is a new browser-based platform that we released about a year ago. So you can think of the ebook as a digital textbook. So if you've ever used, a digital textbook from, say, like McGraw-Hill or another publishing company, the Anatomage ebook emulates a very similar experience. But there are a few things in the ebook that make it a little unique to stand out from other digital textbook platforms. So one thing that I think really stands about the ebook is the use of interactive visuals with our real human anatomy. So most of you will probably already know about the table, and you already know about the high quality real tissue cadavers that we use for our visuals there. The ebook employs the exact same cadaver visuals. So all the high quality visuals that you're used to seeing on the table, they will be incorporated into the movies, the activities, and the quizzing of the Anatomage ebook. The other big difference about the ebook platform is that it's a browser-based platform. So unlike the table or Table Alpha, where it's a separate unit where you have to purchase hardware, anyone can access the Anatomage ebook. If they have an internet connection and if they have the ability to run any internet browser, they can use the Anatomage ebook. So it's very accessible, especially during this time when, we can't access schools or we can't physically access our tables. The ebook allows for access from anywhere. Currently, we officially support 3 browsers. I know it only says 2 on there. We currently support Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and Apple Safari. So those are all officially supported browsers. You can try to use the ebook on other browsers, but we don't officially support them, so there might be some compatibility issues. We highly recommend that you use one of the 3 supported browsers for the best experience. So some of the key features of the ebook are: one, since it's a web-based platform, it does have a web-based interface, which means that it does support both mouse and keyboard and touchscreens. So this is important because, ebook is intended to be used on a wide range of platforms. So whether you have a laptop computer, a desktop computer, or a tablet, or even a smartphone, the interface is tailored to work on all of them. So you can use a mouse and keyboard, you can use touch controls. I will say I would probably not recommend using it on the smartphone just because the screen's pretty small, so maybe a lot of the user interface will be really squished and hard to see. I do recommend you use it on a desktop or a laptop, and maybe a tablet if that's all you have. And like I mentioned before, the ebook features real human anatomy, so contents are derived directly from the table. And the other key feature of the ebook is that we really try to incorporate self-learning and self-assessment into the product. So what that means is, with a traditional, paper textbook, or with a platform that just has a bunch of videos, students can be really passive when it comes to learning, which means they'll just flip through the pages, or they'll just watch the videos but not really pay attention. So we try to make our content on the ebook as interactive as possible. So for our videos, we have the ability to scroll through them, so you can control the playback at your own speed. For the activities, we allow the users to interact with 3D models directly, so they can directly, scroll, rotate, and mark different landmarks on different structures. And then we also incorporate questions at the end, so they can do self-assessment. So they can try to take what they've learned from the videos and the activities, and then actually apply them, to multiple choice or quiz questions at the end of each chapter or section. All right, so how do you access the ebook? So the ebook can be accessed from our website, ebook.anatomage.com. And when you go to that website, you'll hit the landing page, which will allow you to log in to the ebook. So for those of you who don't have an account, you can go ahead and request a trial account from us. So the trial account lasts for 1 month. And it gives you a demo instructor account with up to 5 students that you can assign to your classes. So when you get a trial account, you get 1 month free access to the ebook. You can access all the chapters, all the content, and then you also have the ability to play around with creating classes and creating assignments, and then inviting up to 5 students to share in your trial, so you can go ahead, and see, how to handle them that way. And then if you are satisfied with your trial period and you would like to know more about a full access paid account, go ahead and email one of us. We can connect you with the sales team, and then they can provide you with more information on how pricing works for a full paid license. So you can either buy bulk licenses for your institution and then have your instructors with prepaid licenses to allocate to students, or they can set you up with a student paid license where the instructors get instructor accounts, but then the payment is handled by individual students as they join classes. So you can go ahead and contact the sales team if you're interested in a paid account, and they can provide you with all the information and details. All right. So now I want to go over the different kinds of content on the ebook platform. And I'll also be going straight to the ebook website while I'm doing this, just so you can see exactly how it looks when you access the website. So to kind of give you an idea of how the ebook is laid out, it is like a digital textbook. So the way it's organized is it's broken up into chapters. So when you open up the ebook website, there's going to be a tab, just got like a little tab menu on the left, and then one of those tabs is going to be for chapters, and it's going to show you a whole chapter list of different topics. So it's like skeletal system, muscular system, GI, cardiology, physiology, chemistry, all that kind of stuff. And then those chapters are broken down into individual sections with specific topics. So example, so for the skeletal section, for the skeletal chapter, you might have like a section on like head and neck bones, thorax, abdomen, pelvis, upper limb, lower limb, that kind of thing. So within those section pages, you're going to have different kinds of content and module. The most prominent one is going to be these scrolling videos. So each video is kind of, it encompasses like an individual topic on anatomy or physiology. And like I said before, what makes them a little bit unique is that you can, instead of just clicking play to just play through the video and watch it passively, the user themselves actually control the playback by scrolling with their mouse wheel. And that allows you to play back the video as fast or slow as you want. So if there's more difficult sections where you need more time to read or digest the information, you can scroll through a bit slower. And then, for parts that you already know, you can just scroll through them quickly to bypass them. The text and the visuals are also color coded, which is really helpful for students that are learning concepts or structures for the first time, because it allows you to highlight, a visual with a text reference. I just got a question about, can I purchase only the instructor account? It might be too late for my school to buy student accounts. Yes, if you want just an instructor account without any student account attached, we can definitely do that. You would have to state that, when you're talking with the sales team, to kind of explain your specific use case, where you just want an instructor account where you want access to the ebook website, and you don't care to have any students accessing it. So we can definitely provide you with a single instructor account license. You just need to make sure you explain that with the sales team so they can set you up with the right price and license. All right, jumping back to the content. So let me go ahead and open up this link and show you how it looks on the ebook website. So when you come to the ebook website and you open up one of the section pages, it's going to look like this. It's going to have like a black background. Over here, all of the individual modules or content pieces are going to be here on the left. Which of these little markers represents either a video or an activity or a question. So for the videos, we have, we're in the cranial bone section. So we have this cranial bone video over here. And it's not strong, let's try another one. All right, so we have this video on the sutures. And as you can see, so as I scroll through with my mouse, there's a little playback bar at the very bottom, and then some text will show up to annotate, whatever I'm looking at. And then the video will play back in a preset manner to kind of show you the different structures. And then as you scroll through the different structures, those structures will be highlighted and the text will be color coded to match with that structure. You can continue to scroll through to look at different highlighted structures with matching color coded text. If you find that you scrolled through something too quickly or you missed it, you can always just scroll back. Right. And then so in this way, the student's a little more interactive, a little more active in their learning. They have to actually scroll through, read the text, and then kind of match the color-coded text to the color-coded visual that they're seeing. So it's just like a video, but a little more interactive, and it facilitates, a little bit more learning on their end. So, oops, link by accident. So moving on to the other kinds of components in the eBook website, we also have explore activities. So you can think of explore activities as kind of like supplemental interactive modules that complement the videos. So the point of the videos is they're like an introduction to a specific topic, so they have preset visuals, they have preset text, they basically lay out, the concept in like a preset way. The explore activities are basically opportunities for the students to take what they've just learned and have a little more interaction with it. So for example, if they just watched a video on the skull bones, then usually there will be a follow-up activity where they can actually rotate a 3D model of the skull bones and pick them out themselves. Or in the example I just showed you with the sutures of the skull, after watching a video on that, there's an activity that allows them to rotate the skull and actually pick out the sutures individually, just so they can get a better understanding of it themselves. So we'll go ahead and open up the website again. So at the, we had in this section, we had a video on the cranial bones. Again, with the color-coded structures and visuals, preset visuals. And then we also had a video on the sutures. So after the student has viewed both of those videos, they can go ahead, come to the explore activities that come right after, and then now they have the freedom to do a full rotation. They have the freedom to fully interact with a 3D model of the skull, and then they can go ahead and actually pick out those sutures again themselves. So if they want to reinforce learning, if they want to see if they can remember what they've learned from the previous video and correctly identify structures here, then they can go ahead and use this interactive explore activity to kind of like test their knowledge. For the explore activities, the title will be listed on the top left. The instructions and kind of like the summary of the concept will be listed here on the left. And then there will be a little icon over here that indicates what direction of this 3D model can be rotated in. So we also have other activities where, you can explore, singular bones with, landmarks. So you have the title over here. This summary section will kind of summarize each of these significant bony landmarks on this structure. And once again, you have this fully interactable 3D model that you can rotate. All of the landmark structures are color mapped. So if you go ahead and click on each one, you'll get a little label helping you identify what each of those landmark structures are. Right. And then the last piece of content in most section pages is going to be the quiz questions. So the quiz questions are there as kind of like the final self-assessment. So if you look at the whole process, it's like you have the videos that are used for kind of like that initial learning. You have the explore activities that are used for like that supplemental learning / self-assessment. And then finally, at the very end of the section, you have quiz questions that are there for like the final assessment, to really gauge, if the students picked up or understood, the major concepts presented in those videos and activities. So when you get to the final part of the section page, you'll have these little activities down here highlighted in green, and each of these are quiz questions. So quiz questions come in a variety of forms. You might have like this type of quiz question where you have to identify certain structures. You have other quiz questions where you have to do like multiple choice matching. Yeah, so you have to do matching over here. Some of the quiz questions are free form answer. So there's a variety of questions to kind of keep things, different for the student. And the other important thing about questions at the end is it also tells the student if they got things right or wrong. So for example, let's go ahead and answer this one. Let's just identify this as the frontal bone. And then select that and then submit our answers. So you can see here that, I got the frontal bone correctly. I was able to correctly identify that, but I didn't put in any answers for the other structures. So I marked all of them as incorrect. So overall, I didn't answer the activity fully correctly. So this is some real-time feedback that students get. They can attempt the question as many times as they like. And then every time, they get any incorrect, they have the opportunity to try again, to try to get everything correct, so they can fully understand the concept, do that full assessment for themselves. And then lastly, we have a unique activity called the CT Viewer. So not every single chapter or section page will have one of these activities, but certain pages do. So for those of you who are familiar with the tables, specifically the case library on the table, you know that the case library will have a large bank of CT and MRI scans. And so we wanted to also bring some of that functionality over into the ebook, where students could actually interact with real patient CT and MRI scans directly in the ebook platform. And so what we did was we actually created a CT viewer in the ebook website, a simplified version of the CT viewer, not quite as comprehensive as the table version, but it still allows students to load in a scan from an activity on the website and do clipping, do rotations, apply different filters to look at that scan. So let me go ahead and open up this link. Can I show you an example? So like I said, not every single chapter or section page will have a CT activity, but certain pages do. And when you click on that CT activity, it's going to open up a new tab in your browser and then open up this CT viewer. So as you can see here, if you're familiar with the table, some of these controls should look very familiar. So you have the ability to rotate this scan. You can pan and zoom. And then over here at the very top, you have the ability to control the different orientations for the scan. And you also have the ability to control the volume filters. So just like on table, you have these opaque hard tissue and transparent hard tissue, which is really good for looking at the bones and the denser structures. You also have the ability to adjust the brightness when you want to do different visuals for soft tissue and hard tissue. Then you also have filters over here for soft tissue. So when you want to look at things like GI, airways, things like that. There are also presets assigned to each of the CT scans on the ebook. So in this particular case, this is actually a scan of ectopic pregnancy. So there is actually a fetus within the scan once you set the filter and the brightness settings to the correct level. So the presets will usually highlight the kind of like significant or important structures in the scan. So you have multiple presets in this particular CT viewer for different visuals of that ectopic pregnancy. So we have the hard tissue filter here, we have the soft tissue filter here, and then we have another kind of hard tissue filter cross-section over here in this preset. Down here in the case notes, there's usually a very brief radiological report on the scan, just kind of explaining the patient, the case, and the significant landmarks or points of interest. And then you can also do clipping. So if you want to enable clipping, and then you can then scroll through the scan sagittally, axially, and coronally. And in this way, you can go ahead. The ebook does offer, some direct CT and MRI scan analysis that students can play with or interact with during certain chapters and sections of the ebook. So before I get into to the website itself and how to navigate it, I just want to talk quickly about the two different account types that are available on the ebook website. So you have instructor accounts and you have student accounts. So instructor accounts are provided by Anatomage. So they're only created when you've finished the purchasing process with the sales team, and then Anatomage will then generate instructor accounts for your institution that you can use to log in. So instructor accounts are basically, they have full access to the ebook content, and they have the ability to create classes and set assignments for students. So essentially, they have higher level control over how to access the content, how to create classes, how to create assignments. They also have access to metrics for classes. So if you want to review progress for a class, or you want to review progress for an assignment, see how your students are doing, instructor accounts have access to metrics. And instructor accounts also, since they're created by Anatomage, they also have access to bulk licenses. So if you are an institution and you want to have a bunch of licenses for all your students, and you want to have several instructors, you can negotiate a bulk license with us, and then we can go ahead and provide you with a licensing plan that fits your department or your needs. For student accounts, those are going to be a little bit different, because there's no need for student accounts to contact Anatomage directly to activate their account. You can actually just create a student account directly from the ebook website. They also have access to all the ebook content in terms of like all the chapters, but they don't have the ability to create any classes or create any assignments. And then the one limitation to student accounts is they have to join the ebook website by joining a class. So they have to have an existing instructor account, an existing instructor account, create a class, and then student accounts. In order to gain access to the ebook website, they need to go ahead and join a class in order to gain access to the contents. And then depending on the type of license, the access is either paid for, it's prepaid by the instructor, or the student themselves can go ahead and pay for access to that class to gain access. We also introduced a new type of account recently for students where they can pay for independent access and not be associated with any class. So as a student, you can go ahead and gain access to a class by joining an existing class that an instructor has made, or you can also purchase an independent account that's not associated with any class, but just for access to the ebook content. Right. So now I want to get into navigating the website itself. So when you first log into your account, it's going to go ahead and open up to the home page. So let me go ahead and just open up the browser. Let's go ahead and log in to the ebook website. So let's close all of these tabs out. And let me go ahead and just log out just to show you how that would look. So when you go to the ebook website, you're going to get a landing page that looks like this. And then to log in, you're just going to type in your email for your account. And your password. In this case, I'm using a test instructor account, and it'll automatically log you into this landing page for the ebook. So you can think of the home page or the landing page as just like a summary of all of like the major content fields in the ebook website. So you have announcements, you have your most recent assignments, you have popular content that your students are going through, and then you have a chapter list. So basically just an at a glance dashboard view of most of the popular content on the ebook website. Moving on to the announcements page. So the announcements page is going to be the first tab underneath the home page over here. So the announcements page is pretty straightforward, allows you to basically make any announcements to your classes. So if you have multiple classes and you want to announce that a new assignment has been assigned, or if you want to make an announcement that you are changing the start date or end date for a class, or you have office hours at a certain time, you can go ahead and just add an announcement over here. Just give your announcement a title. You can choose what classes you want to assign that announcement to, and then just type out your announcements over here. And then the announcement page itself will just have a list of all the announcements that you've made for all your classes. And then these announcements will also show up on the home page whenever you post them. And then moving on to the class list. So the class list is where you're going to be creating and managing all of your classes. So when you first open up the class list page, it's going to just give you like this summary page of all your classes, each class name, start and end dates, the class code, and the roster for each one. There's also the ability to create a class in this page where you can just assign a class a name, assign the end date, the license code, and number of students. And then you also have the ability to manage classes where you can change the name of a class, change the end date, add instructors, update the roster, change the license, so on and so forth. And then finally, you have access to the metrics for those classes over here on this metrics page. So let me go ahead and just show you that whole process over here on the website itself. So if you come over here to the class list page, so on the landing page for that, you're going to have this summary page. So you're going to have the class name, just over here in this column, the start and the end date. So the start and the end date for the class on the ebook website is important because students can only join a class starting at the start date. So if you create a class and the start date, you haven't reached a start date yet, students won't be able to join. So students can't join a class early. The start date is basically when you set the date for when students can start joining that class. The end date is going to be when the class expires, and it basically removes the students from the class and returns the licenses to you. So the start date and end date are important to you as an instructor because it allows you to set dates for when licenses are basically returned to you. So for example, let's say your institution purchases a set of licenses from us, and for your instructor account, you are assigned 30 seats. basically you are allowed to create as many classes as you like, but the total number of students that can be allocated to those classes is 30. You can have 30 seats available. So the start date basically allows you to set when students can join that class, so students don't accidentally join that class early and take up the seats in your license early. And then the end date allows you to expire the class by a certain date, which basically means that when the class expires, the students are removed from the class, and then all of those licensed seats are returned to you, so then you can then allocate them to another class or use them in another class. So that's the start and end date for a class. Days of the week just means when the class is active. It doesn't actually restrict you from accessing the content at any time. It's just kind of there to know, when you actually have that class. Class creation date, that's when you create the class. Class code. So the class code is the code that you will share with your students when you want them to join your class. So let's say you create a class and then you want 10 specific students to join. You would then email those 10 students with this class code so that when they log into their student account, they can use this class code to join your specific class. Over here, you can get a quick at-a-glance view of how many seats you've assigned to that class. So for example, in this class, I've assigned 2 seats. So that means I have 2 seats available for this class, and my active roster is 2, meaning that on my roster, I already have 2 students that are assigned to those 2 seats. If you want to go ahead and create a new class, you can go ahead, click on the create class over here. And then so here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can add a class name, start and end date for that class, days where that class is active. You can choose the license code that you want to use for assigning seats to that class. If you have multiple licenses, you'll see them all over here. And then you can assign a number of students you want to assign to that class. So for example, if your license has, say, 30 student seats, you can assign up to 30 students to this class. Or if you want to have multiple classes, you can maybe create one class with 10 students, another class with another 10 students, and then a third class with the final 10 students. So you have 30 seats in total, but split up into 3 classes of 10 seats for each. What you can also do is you can go ahead and edit your classes from over here. So if you ever, after creating a class, if you need to change the name or to start and the end dates, you can do that over here. So this is important if you want to give access to a class earlier, you need to change the start date, or if you want the class to go on longer before expiring or kicking out all your students, you can change the end date while the class is still active to extend it. Over here, you can update the instructors. So by default, the instructor assigned to your class is just going to be your account. But if there are other instructor accounts that you want to associate with this class, you can go ahead and add the instructors over here. And then that way it will be added to their class list so they can edit the class too on their end if they have to. You can also edit the roster. So this will just tell you all of the students that have joined this particular class. So if, for example, the class code gets sent to the wrong student or it gets passed to another student that shouldn't be in the class, you can go ahead and just remove them from the roster. This also just gives you an at-a-glance view of what students are actually enrolled in this particular class, just so you know that the right students are assigned to this particular class. And then finally, you can go ahead and edit the licenses. So for example, if you want to change the license that you're using, you can change the code over here, or if you want to assign a different number of seats. So for example, let's say you assign 10 seats to a class, but then you realize that after registration, only 5 students actually need access to this class. You can go ahead and change the number of seats allocated down to 5 so that then you can use those remaining 5 seats to allocate to another class. Right. And then finally, we have metrics, which you can pull for individual classes. So unfortunately, the metrics for this particular class aren't very useful because it's my test account, so I have 2 students that haven't done anything. But in general, for these metrics, they're used to track overall progress. So basically, when you assign assignments to a class, it'll basically just check how far each student has progressed within the assignments for that class. So how many students have completed all the assignments or most of them, how many students are still in the progress of completing them. And then it also breaks them down by individual module types. So how many students completed the main core concept and videos, how are they doing on the activities, and how are they doing on the self-assessment or quiz questions at the end. So those metrics are kind of shown over here. And then moving on to the next part of the ebook, we're going to go over assignments. So the layout of the assignment is going to be very similar to the layout of the class page. So the assignments are going to be the next tab over on the eBook website. And as you can see, it's going to be very similar to the class list page, where you kind of have the summary view over here, and you can go ahead and add assignments in this page. So for adding assignments, you can go ahead and give your assignment a name. Again, you can add a start date and an end date. The start date is when students will actually be credited for progress on the assignment. If they try to view the chapters before the start date, you won't get any credit. And then the end date is basically when they can no longer make any progress, or they can no longer make any progress on the assignment itself. The assignment will have been expired. So the way assignments work is when you make an assignment on the ebook, you're essentially assigning chapters for your students to read and go through on the ebook. So for example, you might have like an anatomy class, and then, for the first week, you set the start and end date for the first week. You might assign them with the introduction chapter and the foundation chapter and the skeletal osteology chapter. And you expect them to have those 3 chapters read and gone through, by a certain time. So you would then give that assignment a name, and then you would then set the start and end date for that particular assignment. And then the students would then have to complete all 3 chapters, within the assignment period. For the classes, you can basically just assign which classes you want to associate that with. So you can assign it to all your classes, or you can just assign it to specific classes. And then you're just using this input-output menu to basically choose what chapters and what classes that assignment is for. If you've created an assignment and you need to edit it, you can go ahead and just click on the edit button over here, and then it will just bring up the same page where you can just edit that same assignment. And then likewise for the classes, you also have metrics for the assignments. So the metrics are going to be, again, for tracking progress, but instead of tracking progress for an entire class, it's going to track progress for that assignment in particular. So going back to the example where you might have an intro to anatomy class and you assign those 3 chapters, this would show you the progress of the students for just those 3 chapters. Basically, how many students by a certain date have completed all of the content modules, how many students are still haven't started, how many students are kind of like halfway, and then within all of those chapters, have they completed all of the core concept videos, have they completed all the activities, and have they completed all of the self-assessment or quiz questions at the end. And then moving on to the final part of the ebook website, we have the chapter list. So the chapter list is essentially how you and the students will basically be accessing the content on the ebook. So the chapter list will be down here at the bottom, or I guess second from the bottom. So the chapter list just basically has 2 columns, the left column being all of the chapters. So each of the chapters will kind of cover like a broad anatomical or physiological topic. So, you have the intro, you have skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, so on and so forth. And then within each of these individual chapters, you will have subsections that go into a particular subtopic or category. So within, say, like the axial anatomy for skeletal, you have individual sections for cranial bone, facial bone, so on and so forth. So if I go ahead and open, say, one of these sections, it's going to open up a new tab in my browser, and it's going to show you that content page that I was showing you at the beginning of this presentation. And the content page currently has these markers, each marker representing a different module, and the markers are color-coded. So the white markers are going to be for content videos that you can scroll through. The purple markers are going to be for explore activities, so the supplemental 3D explore activities, and the green markers are going to be for all of the quiz and check your understanding questions, with the yellow highlight just showing you which module or marker that you're currently on. So that's a chapter and that's a section page, and those are the markers I was talking about. So I just want to briefly talk about, as we're wrapping up this presentation, I just want to briefly talk about future updates to the ebook. So right now, completed, our initial Anatomy and Physiology ebook release. But moving on to the future, we have a lot more plans for the ebook in terms of, broadening the content and broadening the amount of activities that there are. So the first thing we're doing is we are adding a biology, chemistry, and physics ebook to the website. So currently we have different application team members who are working on the drafts and plans for each of these 3 ebooks. And, we plan to incorporate a biology, chemistry, and physics ebook with the same amount of content and depth as our current anatomy and physiology ebook. So we're excited to have that coming in the future. We don't have a timeline for you yet because it's still very much in the planning and development phase, but we do plan to kind of have the same amount of content with the same high quality visuals and depth as the current anatomy and physiology ebook that we have. The other feature update we have for the ebook is for integration of LMS platforms. So I know for a lot of you, you're using like Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle. You already have an account on there with all your assignments and grade books. Your students already have accounts on there with assignments and grade books. So currently, the ebook or Anatomage ebook website doesn't have any integration with LMS platforms. But one thing we're shooting for in the near future is we do want to start adding integration with those platforms. So you'll be able to do things like have a single sign-on to where if you sign in to your Canvas account, you no longer need to do a separate sign-in for the ebook account. Those accounts will be linked together. Other things like in integrating modules from the ebook straight into Canvas, so you don't need to open up a separate browser tab or website. You can just go access your Canvas account, and within Canvas, the ebook will be just integrated into one of the pages or modules within the Canvas platform, which also means that if you do ebook content in the Canvas platform, it will also get graded in the Canvas gradebook, which allows you to check your grades there or view metrics from there. So we're working on that. We just want to go ahead, since we know LMS platforms are so ubiquitous, we want to try to see if we can integrate the ebook into LMS platforms just so it's just easier to access for our users in the future. And then lastly, we are also in the progress of adding translation support. So right now we are working with our international offices and distributors to add translation support. So we already have some initial drafts for French, German, and Spanish translations. So we're excited to be able to roll out the ebook in those languages in the near future, especially for our international customers.